Summary. Metod Trobec was a Slovene serial killer. Trobec was born an illegitimate child in Planina nad Horjulom, then part of Federal People's Republic of Yugoslavia. At the age of 14, he is said to have burned his neighbor's hay, and to have stolen a moped at the age of 18. After doing his military service, he worked for Yugoslav Railways and then emigrated to Germany. He returned to Slovenia in 1974 and committed several crimes, and was sentenced to 13 months in prison. Between 1976 and 1978 he raped, killed, and cremated at least 5 women. He was sentenced to death, but this was commuted to 20 years in prison. During his imprisonment he tried to kill fellow prisoners twice, and 15 years were added to his sentence. He committed suicide at Dob pri Mirni prison in Slovenska Vas on May 30, 2006. He was buried at state expense in an anonymous grave in Centrupit. At the time of his death, he had prostate cancer and spent 27 years in prison, which is a Slovenian record. Trobec was convicted of the murders of Vida Markovic, Marjana Kankar, Urska Breko, Anna Plevnik, and Zorka Nikolic. After his sentencing, the identity papers of Olga Pajic were also found in his house in Dolinja Vas pri Polhovem Gradcu, and he is believed to have killed her. According to the way he killed his lovers and acquaintances, Metod Trobec was certainly the most notorious murderer in the territories of the former Yugoslavia. The newspapers wrote that this Slovene, a forklift driver, killed and burned the bodies of 6 women. They called him a monster, a demon, a sex maniac and a man-beast. Almost no one can answer the question who Metod Trobec is really. But the Croatian Express in-depth analyzed all the information and events related to his life and the murders he committed. The media write that Metod Trobec was closed, selfish, strange, lonely, without friends and too attached to his mother. He is believed to have sometimes killed dogs and sick cats as a child. Although his half-brother Rajko claims that Metod was terrified of killing animals and blood. After compulsory military service in the Yugoslav People's Army, he worked briefly in Slovenia where he was dissatisfied with his salary and decided to move to Germany. He worked for Porsche for 4 years, where he learned a trade and matured as a man. He had 2 failed marriages, and first confronted the police when he fraudulently tried to seize a rented car from Germany. Police discovered him and he earned 13 months in prison. It is believed that then Trobec broke the movie, and while he was in custody, he showed signs of mental instability. He defecated in bed, small and large, and after several tests and electroconvulsive therapies, despite being diagnosed with psychopathy, he was released. After the breakup of his second marriage, he started drinking and stealing, which according to Express was probably the only way for Metod Trobec to establish some contact with people. In mid-1979, he made a blunder and discovered his demonic face. Metod Trobec beat a German tourist, and after he reported him to the police, the authorities came up with incredible information. In his home, in addition to piles of stolen goods, various appliances and clothes, there were many women's things: underwear, dresses, bags, shoes, umbrella and documents. He did not answer anything to the police about the origin of these things. And when he was sentenced to 8 years in prison after the attack on the German tourist, things started to reveal. They began investigating his case and went to the abandoned house where he once lived. At almost every step in the yard, near the garbage and in the building itself. Investigators found charred remains of the skulls of 5 human bodies, pieces of clothing and much more. Andrzej Polak, a prosecutor from Kranj, wrote in the indictment at the end of April 1980 that Metod Trobec was responsible for the deaths of 5 women: Vida Markovic, Mariana Kankar, Urska Breko, Anna Plevnik and Zorka Nikolic. The evidence against him was only bones and ashes from the dead. Accused of killing 5 women, Metod Trobec confessed to the murders. However, the question was, how did these women get to his furnace of hell? It is believed that all these women were unhappy and rejected by society. When they disappeared, no one was looking for them. When it was found out that they had been killed, no one cared. Vida had mental problems. Mariana suffered from epilepsy. Urska could not keep her balance. Anna drank too much, while Zorka was a patient in a psychiatric clinic. Although all the cases are special and have a different story, he usually seduced the women and took them to his home, where he killed them and burned their bodies. The proven psychopath, kleptomaniac and alcoholic for them was an interlocutor who suits them and a friend at night. He offered them companionship, sexual pleasure, and death. He killed them in moments of false tenderness, express rights. In the words of prosecutor Andrzej Polak, he killed them intentionally and with sexual pleasure, while the killer was serving the first quarter of his prison sentence. Slovenian police officers who were on a military exercise in 1984 near his former house, among the bricks in the mortar, found an ID card and a health card of a certain Olga Pajic. Data from political files quickly revealed that she was a 36-year-old worker at the Roj factory who had disappeared without a trace in the summer of 1975. The investigation, however, confirmed that she was the first in a row and the 6th in the total balance of the victims of Trobec. Therefore, to this day, the secret of how many women Metod Trobec killed has not been revealed. Due to the fact that he committed suicide in 2006 and took his deeds with him to the grave. Most famous serial killer in former SFRY commits suicide in Slovenian prison. May 30, 2006. The most famous serial killer in the former Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, Metod Trobec, committed suicide in the prison in Slovenia. Croatian news agency HINA informs. According to a statement of the prison, the murderer, aka the monster of Gornje Vasi, killed himself on Tuesday. In 1979, Metod Trobec was arrested for the murder of at least 5 women. It is believed he is also guilty of the murders of more women, but the Supreme Court of Slovenia commuted his sentence to 20 years. However, he was not released as in 1992 he tried to murder another inmate and received 15 more years in prison. More info